This is a channel message from the angels about something we're going to be experiencing in 2022. It's a energy field that we're all going to be moving through and experiencing in different ways. I'm Ann Tucker. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. If this is your first time here, I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. That means I move my awareness up as high as I can go and a little higher, and I connect and the messages start to come through. I transcribe them and share them here with you guys on YouTube. And today's message from the angels is about 2022 and about a specific energy field that we're moving through. And they're really trying to help us to understand what this is and how to work with it so that we can move through it with ease and without friction. Because if we move through it with friction, it's going to be a whole lot harder for us. If you like this message and you want to hear more like them, please don't forget to like and subscribe the video. I release a new one every Friday. I hope you enjoy the message.
All right, you guys. So here is the message. When I asked the angels specifically, what can we expect in 2022? And I think I am going to do another channeling that is more specific to, I know a lot of you guys are curious about, like, what about earth changes and things like that? Like, where are we with everything? And to get more into the weeds about that kind of stuff. And I'm going to do another channeling about that. I think, and see if they will speak about it. My son is super curious, and he's going to prompt me with questions while I'm in channel. So if we do that, I will share what I get with you guys. But for this, here we are. This is what can we expect in 2022 when I asked them. They said, this year will bring uncertainty for many. A field of dispersion has grown into the awareness of some. The sensation of all culminations becoming fluid, of separating from what has served and become now unnecessary. The sensation builds, climbs within your habitude. Awareness settles upon it. This uncertainty forms a field of its own happening and draws you within. It serves to embody that which you are developing in yourselves, the capacity to see how you are formed, to understand your own beings more in the frame of how we perceive you now, as beings of greater knowledge and capacity than you have resolved to bear here at this time. So that's the first paragraph. And so this is super interesting. They're saying a field of dispersion has grown. So that's like, and that makes me think of, I mentioned the void, and when you go into the void, and I would describe it almost like a field of dispersion. Like and dispersion just means like it's like everything kind of separates and dissolves and gets kind of thinned out, right? When it gets moved out and thinned out, spread out, opened up. So this field of dispersion has grown into the awareness of some. So it's like that when you go into the void. There's this feeling that all of your normal boundaries are gone, and you just kind of blend and move and separate, and you become more consciousness, more pure consciousness, and less physical embodiment. So this idea that they say the sensation of all culminations become fluid. So it's like all the things that, as we're moving into this new year, and if I had to kind of sum up this whole message in one phrase, I would say it's really about letting go and making space for what's coming next. And so they're saying the sensation of all culminations becoming fluid. So it's like those things that we are attached to about this thing I have to achieve, or this goal I have to have, becomes less important, right? The things that we have always thought of that we really needed as the anchors to our life, are the ways in which we were supposed to measure ourselves, or the things we were supposed to do in order to be okay. All those things seem to become less important. Those culminations become more fluid. Instead of separating from what has served and now become unnecessary. So it's like even the things in your life that you might have thought were really important, the physical items, the tangible things that you might cling to or have clung to in the past and said, wow, this really matters a lot to me. And all of a sudden, maybe not so much. Like maybe it becomes less important. And I can say that I think it's no accident that the angels have me in a position right now where all of my worldly possessions are in boxes, because you guys know my house is under construction and I'm staying with family and all my stuff is like locked into pods on my property. So I have like just a small, few things that I chose to bring with me. And I'm not the only one in my golden circle. Like literally half of the people in my golden circle are in the exact same position where all of our things are locked into boxes. And what are the chances of that, right? Literally half locked into boxes. and we're in transition housing, moving from one house to another. So literally everything that I thought was important, the dining room chairs that I loved, and the this and the that I thought was important, they're all locked away, and I'm seeing I don't really need any of them. Like, they're nice to have, doesn't mean I can't have them, but they're not currently part of my experience, and I'm totally fine. And that is something that's a feeling, an awareness that we're moving through. This idea of the things that we think are important aren't. And in terms of all the stuff external to ourselves, all of the things that we're attached to are less necessary. So they say this separating from what has served and becomes now unnecessary. The sensation builds, climbs in your habitude. Awareness settles upon it. So we just become more and more aware of this as we go through this year. This uncertainty forms a field of its own happening and draws you within. So this is an energy that we're all going to be moving through this year. This idea of letting go, and it's going to happen in a bunch of different ways. They go on to say, it serves to embody that which you are developing in yourself. So this is really about us growing in our capacity to be more of who we really are. So it's less attached to the physical and more aligned with spirit. So I hope that makes sense. And you're saying what has served and becomes unnecessary is right on for me. Yeah, totally, Wendy. And you're also saying perhaps it helps us to create a lightness of being. I really think so. Yeah, I think it and that's a great point, is does this change our vibration? And I think so, because if we are in resonance with physical objects, like with the things around us that we think are important, if we draw those in and say, okay, I'm putting some of my identity in this or in that, in these physical things that are denser than we are, that would necessarily weigh us down and make us more dense, right? Because we're sharing our consciousness with these other physical items that are denser than we are. So I think that's a great point. All right, so moving on here, and hopefully I've got a lot to cover, so I'm kind of trying to go through it quickly. Otherwise, I know these can be like an hour long if I'm not careful. All right. This year culminates for yourselves a capacity of letting go and receiving new, of taking on and letting go. It is a time of refreshing your own internal state to be receptive, more aligned. This letting go state, it comes. It's calling those whose capacity has formed to take no bother from release. But those who form resistance, who dwell in marched rigidity and stay settled in themselves, will find it hard. So this really speaks to that idea that you can have two people in the same exact environment experiencing the same exact things, and one of them sees it from one point of view and the other one sees it from a different point of view, right? You can have one person who's having a lovely experience and the other person who's really going through it. You know what I mean? And they're saying, they're showing it to us here, saying, hey, this is what's coming. And the more you are in resistance to this experience of letting go of the things that you think are important, the more difficult this year is going to be. And that doesn't mean that you can't have a nice home and that you can't have family and that you can't have all the things that you cherish. It's really about what is your relationship to those things. Do you appreciate them and enjoy them and then feel, or do you feel like you need them in order to be who you are, right? Do you need them to be happy? Or are you okay, right? Can you, and it might mean if you really treasure something, maybe stick it in a pod, like I have, like all my stuff is in storage. If you really think you need something, maybe set it aside for a while and see like how you feel. Can you shift your relationship to that thing? That's really all they're talking about. What is your relationship to it? How much of yourself have you invested in that thing? And can you lighten your load so that you can move through this experience with more ease? You're saying for some of us, roles will change. I know people that awoke from zero to hero with long, strong past lifelines. It's going to be different for everyone. That is exactly true. Yes. And it is how attached are we to that definition we have of ourselves in terms of what role we're playing in the world, right? Do you have a job or a title that you're attached to? Can you find separation from that? So it's being aware of this field that we're all moving through and trying to see how it affects you so you can be preemptive and get to a place where you are shifting your relationship to it so that you can move through it with ease. And that's really what the invitation is here for, is for us to do it of our own choice rather than having to be in resistance, because you know that resistance is going to create difficulty in our lives. They go on to say, this capacity must grow. The ability formed from life to give over what was once had, to release from your fields without fear or knowledge of what is there, what comes, or what will be. This struggle in humanity is formed this year. This timing of precarious pointed accuracy leads you through a transformation. It can be of a duration short or involved. How would you be? How would you carry this charge to your nature? Will it be resolved or fluid? Carrying yourselves with lightness, with ease, a detachment from what is now formed will ease your transition through this time. So, and here they're bringing in that added element of, I like to think of it as like if your life is a closet, you have to empty the closet before you can bring in new stuff. So it's that idea of being open without really knowing what's coming. And that level of allowing, like, why is that so important? Why is it so important that we don't know what's going to come and that we have to just be open and receive? Like, whenever we talk about being on the dharmic path, and it's about just sort of like, you kind of let things happen and you're just kind of along for the ride, and you're trusting and having faith in all these things. And I think it really is that idea that you have to clear out everything that's there to make space for new stuff to land. So it's really, I think it really boils down to working with energy, that they're trying to teach us these things as we think of it as a spiritual concept. But at the end of the day, it's almost like physics of a spiritual nature. Like, it's that we have to clear things out to make space for what's coming. And clearing things out means being in a space. It's being in this void space they keep talking about, where it is having openness, open expectations, really not needing to control what is next on the horizon and being receptive to what's there. Does that make sense? And thank you so much. Thank you for the kind messages. I really appreciate it. And Happy New Year to you too. And you're saying, I feel spirit very, very close to my energy fields, as if trying to connect together with our energy fields. Yes, Effie, I totally agree. And I feel like that they are closer than ever, even though that they have gone through this period of moving into the void. They are moving back and forth with us now. And I feel the connection is stronger than ever. I absolutely agree with you. Okay, so I think this is really, I am so grateful to them for sharing this message with us now, because I really feel like they're trying to save us a lot of heartache and say, hey, this is a field we are all moving through. It's going to affect all of us. So we can take the time now to be aware of it. And then even if you're in the middle of things and a resistance comes up, maybe there's something you weren't aware of that you had an attachment to. And then all of a sudden you start experiencing resistance or loss around that thing. You can, say, hey, wait a minute, I remember this is something, this is the energy that we're in. And then you can take that step back and create that detachment and create the space and come back into yourself and say, okay, I'm good just the way that I am. And that will hopefully remove the friction, and then you can move through it with ease, right? And that's the goal, is to move through this with ease. They go on to say, the energy expression of this fluidity may be seen in many ways. It serves not to wonder and specify, for you will amass the amount of change you require to fixate or be set free. I love how they say things. You will amass the amount of change you require to fixate or be set free. Ooh. Okay. And this may be overcome with friction found in the process. So your feeling will vary by expression for each. We say, know of the field. Know what comes and its purpose to let be, to see yourselves how we are, free from all that is. Being is all that is necessary. Loving, being. A period of release is formed. How to perceive it and receive it. This is how your year begins to form. Okay. Yeah, so there it is in a nutshell, right? There it is. It's like, that's intense and so helpful, and wow. And it makes so much sense the way that, I love how they say that, and it makes so much sense. We get the amount of friction that we need to help us move through this field. So it's all in service to us. Everything that happens, everything that's coming is in service. And yeah, so if you find that during this year that you are having a hard time, come back to this and remember this and try to take a look at your life and say, where am I in resistance to what's happening, right? And how can I release that and be okay without knowing what's coming, without knowing what's taking its place, and be okay in that open space, that stillness of just being you, of just being, just loving, and that's it. So that is the message that they gave when I asked specifically to define what it is that's coming for 2022. So if you guys like, now I'll go into when I just opened up and let them speak. And here they go into it in more depth with a lot, more compassion and feeling. So if you guys want to hear this, and you're saying, I experienced a beautiful, sweet energy spiral around me when I was in sleep state. And I wish me a happy new year. My heart felt so full when I woke up. It was, oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah. And you're saying doing our daily routine will get us there now. Yeah. And I think it's important. One of the things they mention about routine, like it's great if you have a spiritual routine that you go through, but then not to be attached to the routine, because they talk about habits being one of the things that locks us in place. So to evaluate the things that you do by habit, to try to be super present in the moment. So like one of the things I'm trying to be aware of is I tend to be a really habitual eater. Like I'm like breakfast, lunch, dinner. Like I kind of go on a clock, and like my system is like attuned to that clock. But I'm aware that I don't always need to be like, if I mix it up and just really follow, like if I sort of cultivate a hunger and wait until I really notice it, then I'm so much more present. If I'm not just doing it when I'm, having a meal when I'm used to, I'm instead trying to pay attention and to be more present. It gets me out of that body cycle that I'm and maybe that's a kind of addiction, right? A kind of way in which I'm tied to the earthly experience of time. So that's something for me that I'm trying to watch and be aware of. And it's hard because it's like there's so many rituals around sharing meals with family and things like that, but it is something from, like, this is one of the ways that I'm trying to incorporate this message right now, is to try to be aware and to not, like, it to be off a schedule as much as I can, because it opens you up. It opens you up to being much more aware and having to tune in to make every choice. And it's a lot more work for sure, but it's also liberating in a strange way. So, okay, so let's get into this. So here's what I just opened up and let them speak. So this is the second part of this message. They say, we rise to renew our glance, our understanding of how, where, and what will occupy yourselves. For now, we renew our glance. We see you all with fresh advantage, with the perspective going toward now, but with having seen what has been and knowing now your concern for what arrives. And I'm just going to move through this, and I'll try to, especially if you have questions of what comes up, put them in the chat. And then I'm going to, because it's a long message, I'm going to try to move through it for you, and I'll touch on the parts that I think are confusing. They say, and when they talk about a glance, this is interesting, and this comes up a couple times. So we'll go back to that concept that they have a glance of us right now, that they're taking it's almost like they're taking a sample of our energy, or a test of our energy, a glance. They're taking a moment, taking a look at this moment in time. We surface in yourselves an understanding, conjecture. It might feel to some more guessing at opportunities, but we feel how we are moving between the openings created within your separating. Now you're encompassing this reality tighter, more whole and complete than you were. So they're really speaking here to the experience we might be having, that things are changing. So it's just like you were just saying, that you're feeling a more closeness to spirit, that we are in a period of transition. So that they're saying that we surface in yourselves an understanding, a conjecture. So you might be coming to some guessing or thinking about what's happening for yourself or what's happening around you. If you're feeling yourself to be in a period where things feel different, and think about this across the board, how much change we are experiencing on Earth right now. So much change. We're talking about climate change. We're talking about economic change with the virus, with all, and some of it's bad, some of it's good, right? So, but it's also personal change in terms of your relationship to spirit and how you're experiencing spirit. So through all that, through this change, it's like there are cracks that they could move in between. They're saying we're moving between the openings created within your separating from expectation, from what was. That creates an opening, and they're moving in between that opening, creating space for us to move into what's coming. They say you're now encompassing this reality tighter, more whole and complete than you were. So through these openings, we bring in more awareness and more of our higher selves. Awareness that's our connection to our higher self. So here we go. The next paragraph. They say that which has been remains in perpetuity, a fragment, a symbol, a sensation for your juxtaposition to now. So in this paragraph, they're really talking about how we get locked into perception of what we've experienced in the past, and how that the what we've experienced in the past frames our understanding of what we're experiencing in now, and they're trying to help us to see that and to free ourselves of it. So they're saying that, okay, that which has been remains in perpetuity, right? A fragment, a symbol, a sensation for juxtaposition to now. So all the things in your past, it's like we hold on to certain moments, certain experiences, and those, it could even be like, think of how, if you have a smell that you smell, like my grandmother's perfume, if I smell that again, immediately it brings back a flood of memories of her. And that fragment, right, that's a metaphor for my whole experience of her, or like a symbol for her. And they're saying that which remains in perpetuity, it's like these things about us that come in and flavor our, so we're not coming into now an empty slate or an empty plate. We're coming into each moment burdened with all of this stuff that we've experienced in the past. And some of that is helpful and some of it isn't. And so they're saying that which has its hold, its tether upon yourselves, and locked you into its play, leaving your faculties much imposed upon. The freshness of each breath, the vision formed, was not unencumbered. The details of life that you have lived were dragged into and through your focus, and tarnished it was. Tempests blew through time and made these arrivals percolate through your minds, and left yourselves impressions of what was, to mar your vision of the same. So this whole paragraph is really about that, the way that our past experience tarnishes or changes how we perceive the future. And that's what this is really about. All right, next paragraph. They say we are in entreaty, we are in asking, we are encompassing a new vision of yourselves, freed from these impositions. Askew, a glance, we take a look upon what was. The asking we have to make, to undermine yourselves. On offer, to take not what comes to mind, but leave it rest. To take not the herald of your own perspective. Entreaty, we ask you. So this is a very interesting little paragraph. They're saying they're really, they're asking, they're almost begging us here. They're saying they are in entreaty. They're asking us to do something fairly unusual, which is to take a new vision of ourselves, to free ourselves from the impositions of all of our understandings from that come from our past experience, all of the ways in which we flavor our current experience of now. They're saying to undermine ourselves, to undermine our past selves, to not rely necessarily always on all the things that we've experienced. And they're saying on offer, what's on offer for us now, to take not what comes to mind, to leave it rest. So as all of these suppositions, all of these interpretations come to mind when we see something or experience something, to let those rest, and to take not the herald of your own perspective. So to really try to free ourselves from the perspective that we've always had. And then they're asking, so again, they say, entreaty, we ask you. So let's go on to see if they can explain why. They're saying, blizzard of thought and feeling, feel it wriggle from each circumstance you are in and encompass the self. Rise as we have known your own beings, to see from clearer skies. Rise and see that turmoil you take on. Perspective, the shield from all enchantment, with now forming real field expression. This lessening of your diversion from now creates a space of opening to see what fields are created, to perceive what is there, but which cannot be found from the fog of that illusion. You carry that field of exasperating influences from your own heavy currency of life. Okay, so what they're saying, my understanding of this paragraph, is they're saying that the stuff that we've experienced in the past locks us into a perspective that prevents us from seeing new things that are forming around us right now. That a new experience of the world is on offer, that this higher vibration, this new elevation that we're moving into is currently happening all around us. But the more that we are locked into our perspective of seeing things the way we always have, it's like the shortcuts that we always take. And there's a reason for these shortcuts, right? That processing everything as if you're seeing it new for the first time is exhausting. It's really tiring, and your brain forms these shortcuts of like looking at something and not really seeing it, but just, okay, I'm looking at a lamp. I see lamp and I know what lamp is, so I don't have to think through what that is. We have these shortcuts that we take based on experience and understanding and categorizing things and putting them into buckets that we know and understand. And they're saying that right now, and it's not like we have to do this with everything, but if we can do it a little bit more, that is, we're moving into this time where there's going to be things that we're experiencing that are outside of what we expect, that we won't see them if we're buried in our own perspective. So the lessening, and they're really saying this lessening of your diversion from now. So lessening the diversion from now is like all the layers of stuff all our expectations. Lessening that diversion creates a space of opening to see what fields are created. So then to see the new things that are coming, to perceive what is there, but which cannot be found from that fog of illusion. So this is why they're really encouraging us to go through this. And you're saying, Wendy's saying, so we need to shake up the kaleidoscope and let the beautiful new reality present. Yes, what a great way of saying it, Wendy. You're saying, I'm a software developer, and recently I was told that I have a big role in the transition. Phenomenal. And yes, technology will definitely be a part of what's coming. So I'll be curious to see how that unfolds for you. You see, so we need to shake. Oh, yeah. And yes, again, I love how you said that, Wendy. It's a great way of phrasing it. But yes, shake up the kaleidoscope of all of our own perceptions, and try as much as possible to see with fresh eyes, because there are fresh things to see. It's what they're trying to tell us here. They go on to say, we say just to be sensible of the shift, to notice your own becoming aware. Notice your own becoming aware. The presence of this creates a breach in the turmoil you are held inside by your cautious minds. Just the sense of seeing without perceiving, without creating meaning from that which you adhere to be fresh and open. The glance we take, we steal a moment's frame of your field and place our hearts, opening to create a tunnel to look through, to see and sense outside of where you have been. So they're really helping us. They're trying to help us by, like, every time we have one of these sort of cracks of awareness where we all of a sudden see through our own perception, and we see through it, that little crack, the angels are saying they're putting their hearts there, trying to pry open. It's almost, you can imagine, like a little crack forms, and they shove their heart in there and try to pry it open a little wider so that we can see through and have a little bit more vision into what's coming, which is a beautiful thought. So they're saying that we are held, it's a breach in the turmoil you are held inside by your cautious minds. And that frame about our cautious minds, what that really is about is that the world is a crazy place with so many things to perceive and understand. And our minds are motivated to try to minimize the amount of work we have to do from a survival standpoint to understand everything. So we form these buckets of perception that we use as we go through our world, and we see things, we understand them based on our experience of them, but we understand how things are going to behave because we've done it before. So it's like there's a cautiousness to the way that our biology is formed, that we can't escape, that we are locked inside a human experience, a human body. So our spiritual selves have to try to adapt around our biology. And our biology says, don't burn so many calories trying to perceive everything that's around you all the time. Use your experience, use what you've learned. That's our biology speaking. But our spirit is saying, okay, this is a new playing field. We have to try to open and try to get past our biology, past this pattern recognition that we've developed to try to see things with fresh eyes. Yeah. Okay, next paragraph. They say, cautious creatures form anew. Let be found some new fresh horizon never built, never seen. Let it be uncommon and unheard of. Let it rifle your characteristic understanding and create consternation in your formed opinions. Let it dwell and percolate and challenge your thinking. Assume you understand it not. And this really makes me think about my whole spiritual journey. This whole idea that let things challenge you. Like when I first started down this spiritual path, everything challenged me because I was skeptical. I'm a data person, right? I like to test and to use my own critical thinking about everything. And so I was like, I thought crystals were rocks, and I thought fairies were silly, and I thought, you know what I mean? I thought all the things that we think until we experience it. And then you're like, okay, all right, I can't doubt this any longer. And that is the space that they're inviting us to step into. This idea that to let the ways in which we are closed or the way in which we think we have it solved, to let those be challenged. All right, assume you understand it not. That's a totally different state of openness, right? Than thinking we got it figured out. So, all right, next paragraph. And you're saying become the observer without judgment. Yes, right, exactly. Okay, they say next paragraph. Let it be happening even as you perceive it now. Let it be a field in creative space, and know not what or how it has arrived. Let it be unknown to the self, a challenge to all that came before. Let it be unheard of, and rest with it. Take this time of separate understanding, breathe within what you perceive as real, and let it be unspoken. This wordless space of unknown, see what arrives for you now. See what comes. Be not assumptive, no, indeed. Openness is called, is welcomed, is beckoned. And this idea of wordless, of not needing to add words to it, is super important, because words limit understanding, and words are so important. Like, if you think of it this way, if you try to remember a color, it's really hard to lock that color in your head. Like, if you're trying to color match, like if you can try to think of, like, you're trying to match your house color and you're trying to remember exactly what shade it is, and then you get to the store and it's like there's a million shades of that color, and it's really hard to remember which one is your house. And the trick I've always used to help me remember colors is to name the color. And once I add words to it, it locks it in, and I can color match incredibly well by doing that, by giving it a name. That naming something creates boundaries around it. It creates an identity. But words, just by nature, our vocabulary is incredibly limited. And the metaphor I love is that as you're trying to describe the universe and reality and existence, and all you have is one little tiny package of refrigerator magnets. And this represents our vocabulary. And think about how few words there are in a package of refrigerator magnets. There's not that many. And if you're trying to explain really complex concepts, it's super hard when all you have is this very limited number of words. So naming something with words right away immediately shrinks it down to that tiny little package, rather than opening up to your greater perception and being with it for a while and seeing what you make of it. Like let it be an unknown for a little while, is what they're saying. Try to keep it outside of our human body and keep it in our greater spiritual awareness. Yeah, openness is called, is welcomed, is beckoned. And you're saying inner knowing without words. Yeah, an inner knowing. And I know you guys have experienced, like, there may be things you have experienced spiritually that are really hard to describe with words. And they're saying that's okay. Be okay with that. And maybe over time you want to add words to it, but that moment of take some time to try to perceive it with your spiritual self before you bring it down into the human comprehension. All right, next paragraph. New beginnings rise, a new year begins, and in its place we fear there will rise much the same should you tether yourselves to what has been seen. Open yourselves to what is forming all around you now. See the magic unfold. The wary observer sees it not. The habitual pattern precludes its arrival to your understanding. You must writhe away out of those harnessed and embedded thoughts to wonder, to appreciate, to evolve. And this is really what I was talking about, how I've been trying to change, like, look at what habits I have and how can I mix it up, and how can I try to make myself be more present in the moment as opposed to kind of locked into a schedule. This is exactly it. They're saying the wary observer sees it not. The habitual pattern precludes its arrival to your understanding. So being locked in habits makes it super hard for you to see this stuff, to see that what might be happening, because you're kind of staying in lockstep with the way things have been. So you're shutting down levels of perception when you stay within your habits. So there's, I love how they say, you must writhe away out of those harnessed and embedded thoughts to wonder, to appreciate, to evolve. All right, next paragraph. They say, you can let go and surrender your being and be evolving. With how we are anticipating your coming, you will climb far and see renewed and feel what has not yet come. It will arrive. But how, to your understanding? How, we say, is measured in capsules of comprehension, in instances. You teleport to this new comprehension and then back again. It is lost to yourselves, you begin again. It is building with broad strokes of sensation. A moment lost will come and rise again. Fear not. So, and I love this. They're explaining really how is it that we're going to experience this? What will our lived experience be of these new sensations, of this new experiences that are on offer, that they're talking about, that we can move into? And they're saying that is, they call it measured capsules of comprehension. So it'll be like a little moment, like there'll be a tiny experience that we have, a capsule, a little experience, and we might have that experience and then lose it and move back to the way we were. So it might be like, oh my gosh, what was this? Almost like it's hard to retain, like that felt different for a minute, but now I can't quite get back there again. Like, what was that? It's almost like a dream state where you wake up and you're like, wait a minute, I know there was something. What was it? But they're saying, don't worry, that in the beginning, it'll be, as they describe, it is building with broad strokes of sensation. So trust your body wisdom, like trust the feeling sensations of something is different, like something I feel different. I'm sensing differently. So be attuned to these broad strokes. And they're saying a moment lost will come and rise again. Fear not. So even if you have it for a moment and then lose it, don't worry. Like they're saying that each one of those is building a foundation of comprehension. So let it build and just try to be attuned to it. Try to be aware of it, right? And to understand that it's going to come, as they describe it, in capsules of comprehension. It's going to come in little moments, little segments, where you experience it, you move into it, and then out of it, right? Which is, I think it's really helpful to understand that that's how we won't be like all of a sudden we have this great, huge understanding. It'll be like, nope, a little snippet and then gone, and then another snippet, and these kind of broad feelings that build and create a foundation. All right, next paragraph. But how you might further, lighter, easier be. You might seek a path of lighter resistance, more fluidity to be found. You might move in peace through these archways of expansion as you release that which tethers you down. But when your capacity is resolved to play old tunes and perceive in old ways, you are locked and perpetrate your own shortcoming. Friction formed in this manner finds its expression as blocks to abundant creation. A feeling of difficulty pervades the air, the feeling sinking, determining the outcome. So let's break this down a little bit. So they're saying, okay, but how might you further, lighter, easier be? So how can you make this easier on yourself? You might seek a path of lighter resistance, more fluidity to be found. So this is what they were talking about earlier, about like in that other message, that's really about being less attached and being more open and being less in resistance to what's happening in the world. They say you might move in peace through these archways of expansion as you release that which tethers you down. So it's really all about that other message, about like releasing our attachment to the things and it could be any kind of thing. It could be relationships, it could be jobs, it could be circumstances, it could be, your eating patterns, like I'm talking about. It could be anything, right? That you feel like anchors you into a way of being, or things that you feel like you need to be happy, right? What are the things that tether you in terms of how you define your life and think about yourself? So anything that tethers you down, so releasing and becoming more fluid around these things is going to make it easier for you. But when your capacity is resolved to play old tunes and perceive in old ways, there's a big one, perceiving in old ways, you are locked and perpetrate your own shortcomings. So it's limiting, right? It's limiting us. Friction formed in this manner finds its expression and blocks to abundant creation. So it creates a friction that prevents you from seeing this new reality that's being created. A feeling of difficulty pervades the air. The feeling sinking determines the outcome. So there's that feeling of difficulty, and it becomes the self-perpetuating loop that you feel like, oh my gosh, this is really hard. And when you feel like things are really hard, they become really hard. And then we end up perpetrating that, which is not what we want, right? We don't want that. So, okay, next paragraph. And this is the last paragraph here. They say, of refreshing capacity, you are formed, renewed in each instant. And so you may be lifted for a second. Your capacity to prolong this experience lengthens. You grow, you see, you accept. Resist not what rises in the absurd, extreme, remote fields of comprehension. It unearths your greatest capacity of self now as you evolve into a greater way of being. So, and they're saying, and I love this, that basically they're saying that It's really about don't get discouraged, that they're saying of refreshing capacity you are formed, that you're renewed in each instant. So that every second that goes by is a fresh chance, is a fresh opportunity to do things differently. And think about that, how in every second we this is true in every single way. Like our bodies, every cell in our body is renewed like every, I think, 14 days. Literally every, you are a brand new body every 14 days. I think it's 14 days. Anyways, don't quote me on that. But my point is that in every instant, it's a fresh moment of creation, as they're saying here. So you may be lifted for a second. So in the second, the next second, like the very next moment, you could be lifted. Even if you're in a feeling of like really deep, dark place, the next second you can be lifted. And they say your capacity to prolong this experience lengthens. So as we build these layers of comprehension, of awareness, they're saying our capacity to prolong those experiences being lifted, they lengthen. We can make it longer and longer. So this is the process of building. We're going to be building this new reality moment by moment as we're able to prolong those seconds of being lifted. So you grow, you see, you accept. Resist not what rises in the absurd, extreme, remote fields of comprehension. So it really is about like just kind of going with the flow and not resisting what might seem impossible, right? Or might seem unreal or unheard of. It unearths your greatest capacity of self now as you evolve into a greater way of being. So super cool, you guys. Super cool message. They are talking about what's coming on an energetic level. And that really is what truly matters. Like the energy is what we are all going to be experiencing, and it's going to affect us all differently. Like they said, it's going to be in whatever measure we need to get the experience that's going to be best for us. So it's going to show up differently, but the energy will be the same. And if we can be aware of that energy, if we can be aware of what's truly happening on an energetic level, then we can understand. Then you're not just at the mercy of what's happening around you. You can take that step back and see it and understand why it's happening, and then you can adapt, right? And you can hopefully create a better experience, right? You know, we can all have a better experience for ourselves with less resistance, right? Let's all commit to that. Let's all commit to trying as much as we can, but not in a way that's grabbing, because that in itself is resistance. But being aware, being present. How can we break habits? How can we notice the things that we are locked into, that we feel are necessary, and try to get to that state where we recognize that being, that just to be is enough. That even if you lost everything in your life, even if all the things that you thought were important were stripped away, at the end of the day, you are the person that created all of it, and you are still there. So you have the capacity to create anew, right? That at the end of the day, all you need is yourself, and that everything that you have in your life was created by you. So of course you can create it again. So there's no reason to be attached to the structures and to what you feel might be the foundations of your life, and to try to get to that place where you feel like you could be dropped anywhere, that somebody could pick you up out of your life and move you and drop you somewhere else, and you would be just fine, and that you would be able to create from there. And that, wow, that's being liberated. And not all of us want to be picked up and dropped somewhere else. Like some of us are really built to like a cozy space, you know, and to enjoy home, and that's okay. But the idea is to enjoy it from the perspective that you are okay without it, that you don't actually need it, that you just enjoy it. All right. So you're saying go with the flow. Absolutely. Thank you so much for this message. Perfectly resonating. I'm so glad, right? They always have the most amazing timing. They just really speak. The angels do. They speak what's going on for us. They're saying it's all light, a change in the destiny of light. We shouldn't feel disquiet. Yes, I absolutely agree. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. It was wonderful to spend this Friday with you, and I'm sending you all big hugs, and I will see you next Friday live. Bye-bye.